Great. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm coming at you from Soma. I'm in the clinic. It's been so nice to come back in here, actually. I haven't been here in so long. Obviously, it's empty. It's been empty for a while. So before we get into it, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how this webinar is going to work. So we're going to start off talking about desk setup. I know that's a big topic for a lot of people at the moment. We're then going to go into exercise, pain, mindfulness, and then a bit on sleep and routine. So this is going to be quite a broad overview of a lot of different topics. We can do more webinars if you'd like us to dive into a particular topic a little bit more. And this is aimed mostly at adults or sort of young adults. If anyone is interested in a webinar more aimed at kids and babies, we also can do one of those if you want to give us a bit of feedback on that. Great. So we're also going to, well, I'll put our contact details in the notes for this video, which will be available once it's finished. It'll have my email and Soma's email as well. It'll stay available once with the same link. The video will still be available at the end. And we're going to do question and answer at the end. So if you have any questions, please save them for the end, unless there's anything that's particularly urgent, or if you can't hear me or understand anything that I'm saying, please let me know straight away. Great, so a little bit about me. I'm an osteopath at Soma. I also work up in Perthshire in Oxfordshire. I've been working in Scotland for about 1.5 years now. Previously worked in Melbourne as an osteopath in a few different clinics for a little while and did my studies there as well. So been in a few different places, a few different clinics, seen all sorts of patients, and yeah, generally I'm missing doing my job a little bit actually, and being in contact with people. But we're still offering telehealth sessions, which I'm sure you know about, so we've been able to be in contact with people that way as well. Great, all right, so we're going to jump straight into talking about desk setup. So this is a really big one for a lot of people at the moment. And some people might have quite a good desk setup at home already. They might have an office, they might have proper equipment, everything like that. I have seen a number of patients already who don't have quite that. They're at their kitchen table with a dining chair on a laptop, which is probably one of the worst combinations, but you know, there's not much that we can do about it. It's obviously a challenging time for a number of reasons. So one of the things that I talk the most about in terms of desk setup is what to do with your lower back position and your upper neck sort of shoulder position. My bread and butter in practice usually is lower back pain, neck and shoulder pain, headaches, which often come from people's regular desk setup and work positions, even if they're in their office, you know, having a good time or with a proper setup. So the aim of improving the setup is to prevent pain mainly, and to allow, you know, better posture, better movement. So with the lower back position, we want to maintain the lower back curve. So this sort of lumbar lordosis, we call it. So if you are in a chair that already has some, that's great. It might need a little bit more. You can put a small towel or a little pillow or something. If you've got nothing at all, I would really recommend rolling up a towel or a small cushion, putting it in the small of the back. So sort of if I stand up a bit and across this area there. That will really help to have your chest sit up higher, and will reduce a bit of the pressure and the rounding in your lower back as well. We want our knees to be lower than the hips. That's quite a big one. If your knees are higher than your hips, you're in this sort of like bucket seat rounded position, which again is going to be rounding and putting more pressure on the lower back. So play around a bit with the height of the chair. You might need to put an extra cushion on top of the chair to make you sit a little bit higher. And then, so these are all things that you can do even if you don't have an actual ergonomic desk chair. I would, however, recommend getting one. It's probably still not too late. We don't know how long we'll be doing this, but it might be helpful in the future anyway. They're not too expensive. My partner got one not too long ago for £40, and it's very comfortable. So it doesn't have to be an amazing one. It doesn't have to be a whiz-bang, professional, expensive thing. Even something quite simple and basic will do. I'm against armrests though. If you do have one with armrests, see if you can take them off, or get one without armrests, just because I find that people who do have armrests tend to use them, and then you end up in these kind of, sideways positions. So then upper back, neck, shoulders. If we have a good lower position, it should allow us to stack better, to have a better upper body position. And the main thing here is to avoid the head coming forward, which a lot of people are familiar with, I'm sure, this sort of turtleneck position. What happens here is all the weight of the head is off the shoulders, therefore the shoulders really need to contract to keep the head on top. And then you're also having a pinching of the upper neck here, which contributes a lot to headaches. So as much as we can, if you have already a better lower back position, your chest can sit higher, and then the head can sit back on top of the shoulders with a little bit of a tuck of the chin. So, it's not about being in a ridiculous position, and you won't necessarily be able to maintain something like that all the time anyway. But just, something that if you have a better chair set up with some props to start with, then it should feel easier for your head and body to sit in the right position. So there are a few changes. I hope that is sort of visual enough and makes enough sense. I definitely would really recommend making some kind of change, even if it's not a big one. A small cushion in the lower back can make a really big difference. Also taking regular breaks, it sounds obvious, but if we're going to be sitting for 12 to 14 hours a day, some people aren't working at the moment, they might have a different routine. Some people still are working from home and doing quite long days. So just like in your regular work, taking regular breaks. If you forget because you're getting engrossed in what you do, put a timer on your phone. I recommend that quite a lot to patients. Set a timer every hour or so, do a few stretches, get up, walk around, get a glass of water, cup of tea, whatever it is, and then continue on. So the main idea here is not necessarily to be stuck in one position that's perfect for 12 hours, but to be in a more flexible position where you get up regularly, and then maybe alternating with standing as well. So a lot of people have sort of makeshift desk setups at the moment, and making a makeshift standing desk is also a good idea. It's not going to be perfect, that's okay, but just something that allows you to have various positions to be working in. Also, a lot of people are working on laptops at the moment, which can be pretty uncomfortable. So if you are working a laptop, I would really recommend putting it on something and getting an external keyboard and mouse. It might seem like a faff, but it's really worth it. Being long hours, it's just going to be impossible to maintain any kind of upper back neck position working from a laptop, so it is really worth it, and you might use it down the track again later. So either a laptop riser that's made specifically for the task that you put the laptop on, and that allows you to have the laptop at eye level, or putting on a box, a crate, whatever it is, and then getting an external keyboard and mouse, which you'll probably need a little bit closer to you than you would expect, because ideally you'd like to have your elbow in around by your side, so that they're not coming forwards and allowing rounding again. So quite straight, keyboard in front of you, mouse, and then eye level. So most of these should be relatively straightforward, but yeah, also, again, really big thing, don't focus on having one perfect position. You can move around, you can cross your legs, it's okay. Just make sure you swap legs and you're not always cross-legged. Just, make sure that you're alternating your movements as much as you can. All right. Great. So if we're happy to move on from desk setup, I'd like to talk a little bit about exercise options at the moment during lockdown, but also things that will be possible to do once it's over, hopefully. So I just wanted to start out by asking if anyone has a routine that they have managed to maintain through the lockdown, or if people have also started new routines during the lockdown that have been beneficial. You can write them in the comment section. I'll be able to see those as well. Great. So exercise, it sounds like some of us are doing some already, others maybe not so much. And I'm getting distracted by messages. Great, quite a lot of jogging. Excellent. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Good, okay, so exercise. Why do we want to do exercise? It sounds like people are already across that and knowing why they want to do that. But just in case it's a little bit unclear, also for people who aren't already exercise types, so people who feel that they're not a gym bunny, for people who feel that exercise isn't for them, they don't want to go and do sweaty classes. I'm really encouraging people to move. So even if it's not in a formal setting, even if it's not a particular thing, just moving regularly is what we want to prevent pain and also to reduce existing pain. So it might sound counterintuitive to be moving when you're in pain, and I know that traditionally the advice has been if you're in pain, just stay home on the couch with some painkillers and it'll go away. We're really moving away from that, luckily. So what we're saying now is gentle movement will be really beneficial even if you are in pain, and in fact not moving when you're in pain is going to be more detrimental. So we're getting more blood flow happening when we're exercising, and we're also getting an improvement in mental health, which is really important too. We're using our muscles, we're preventing muscle wasting, which happens quicker than anyone imagines. And also, if we are sitting for really long periods of time during the day, that's a lot of time when the body isn't moving. And if some people have just a one-time weekly class that they go to usually, that's great. And I would definitely continue doing that. But if that's the only time that the body is moving during the week, then every other day there's kind of this build-up of stagnation, there's a build-up of stress and of tension that isn't really being undone. So what I'm really advocating for here isn't necessarily huge workouts daily, but even just 5 minutes a day, even 5 minutes of moving, stretching, going for a walk every day, that kind of thing will really go a long way into cumulatively improving our physical health and mental health too. So it doesn't have to be a big thing, but just small chunks every day will have a really great cumulative impact on the body. People ask me a lot what the best exercise is to do. And to be honest, what I usually say is, I don't care what you do, just pick something you like and then you'll keep doing it. So one that I like to do, and which I think is really beneficial, is swimming. That's not really an option right now, and a lot of people find it too much of a faff, especially in Scotland. It's a little bit cold. But, you know, it doesn't have to be anything in particular, just something that you like, and then you keep doing it. So if we're going outside, then our options are mainly running and walking. So if people are going outside every day, that is great, getting rid of the great sunshine that's happening at the moment, bit of fresh air. If you haven't started jogging, it sounds like a lot of people are already, but if you haven't done it before, I would really recommend starting with the Couch to 5K. It's a program which allows you to really gradually start running. Most patients that I see with knee pain are runners, and a lot of the time is that they started too quickly. So they started doing too frequent sessions and then too long. And then they might have started having a little bit of pain. They kept running anyway, and then they come in to see me. So my sister, in fact, called me about 10 days ago with exactly that story of having started to run again. She had run previously, but not in a while. And I think started running every day for half an hour or more, and then ended up with really bad knee pain and had to stop altogether. So sorry, Charlotte. That is definitely a common pattern that I see quite a lot. Now, when we're talking about what to do at home, I'm sure a lot of people have some ideas already. There's certainly a lot of celebrity content out there right now. But the ones that I recommend a lot are yoga at home and Pilates. So yoga is available at the moment through a lot of our local yoga studios. A lot of them have gone online, and they're offering their classes which can be supervised. So some of them, I'm not sure all of them, but some of them you will actually be on the video as well. So they'll be able to see you, especially if you haven't done it before. That might feel a little bit more comfortable. You can also support your local studio. Otherwise, YouTube has hundreds, if not thousands and millions of yoga videos out there. I recommend Yoga with Adriene a lot. She's become very popular. You might have heard of her. I recommend her because a lot of her videos are very accessible. They're not too long. She's very okay with you not being able to do a push-up, or needing to modify, not being able to touch your toes. It's really quite a good entry-level yoga class. So with anything that you find, though, if it's a beginner class, and so ideally you're looking for something that's more aimed at beginners if you haven't done much before, and that really explains through each pose. But even if there is all of that and it's still feeling a bit uncomfortable, it's okay to skip it. If you're worried about starting something online, really the biggest thing is to be listening to your own body. So if you're doing everything like they say, but it still feels a bit funny, just skip that pose, rest for a little bit, do the next thing. It's really not about trying to look exactly like them. At least at the moment, we're not having this issue that is quite common of people in regular classes, alongside other people wanting to look like the person next to them and not listening to their own body and hurting themselves that way. So make the most of your living room and your personal space. I'm sure that pets won't mind if you do downward dog wrong. But yeah, that's one that I recommend a lot because there is stretching and strengthening involved in yoga. So that's not for everyone. Pilates is another one that I recommend quite a lot. We have a really great studio around the corner from here, from Soma, called the Pilates Hub, and I saw that they're recently offering online classes as well. So that's something that you can check out. We refer to them quite a lot in our usual practice, and there is also so much content on YouTube for Pilates as well. So if you're not really into yoga but you still want to do something kind of like that, Pilates might be something that you prefer. Now, other than those two, other things which count as exercise are things like dancing. So it doesn't have to be formal exercise, like I was saying before. Moving and just kind of moving your body in any kind of way counts as movement and exercise. So if you put on a fun playlist and dance to it, a couple of songs every day, that also counts as having done exercise for that day. Maybe that can be a fun family activity. It'll definitely bring a smile to your face. My partner and I have been doing that a little bit, having a boogie to a bit of Earth, Wind and Fire. So, that counts. Get into it, move your body a bit. There are also lots of dance classes online that you can get into as well. Maybe this is the time to start a bit of salsa with your partner in the privacy of your home where no one else could see you. So it doesn't have to be a formal exercise thing. It really can be just whatever you find that you enjoy, and doing something daily. It doesn't even have to be the same thing every day, but just finding something that you enjoy that you can do at regular points that makes you move throughout the day. Another thing that I recommend quite a lot is a workout developed by Dr. Chatterjee. He's an English GP that you might have heard of before. So his idea is really that we should be just doing 5 minutes of things every day, and so it's kind of like what I've been talking about, and that cumulatively will be a lot stronger than just doing a one-off thing. So he has a 5-minute kitchen exercise that you can do that I show quite a lot of my patients. Essentially, it's 5 exercises that you do 5 to 10 times. You do it. So it's 5 exercises, you do them 5 to 10 times, and it takes you about 5 minutes. You can do it in your kitchen without getting changed. So I'll put the link to that video of him doing it in the notes for the video once it's finished, so you can have a look at that. And that's a really good one that sometimes I was doing when I had quite long days at work and I didn't have time for more exercise. I would just do 5 minutes in the morning, and then I know that I've done something that day. So that might be something that that feels good. All right, great. So we're going to move on to talking about pain. Pain is just the hugest topic, and being an osteopath, I could probably talk about this for days on end, from all sorts of different angles, but we're not. And I just want to preface this as well by saying that this is not about complex chronic pain. What we're talking about here is really the niggles that come and go, things that you might have had before that are coming back, things that are kind of achy, or new injuries that are happening. This is really not about, really chronic, severe, whole body experiences of pain, which are much more complicated to treat and deal with. So what I want to say to start this off is really talking about when should you seek some help. So at any point where you're not sure and you're a bit worried, definitely you should call us. But if it's something that you've come to see us for before, if it's something that is really recurrent for you, you've been given advice and management for, definitely keep doing those things. We're probably going to reiterate that with you as well. But if you're worried, then definitely get in touch. However, if you're having quite new symptoms, if your symptoms are really sharp, quite acute, quite pinchy, if you're having numbness and tingling in the arms and legs, if you're having shooting pain down the arms and legs, and you haven't experienced anything like that before, then in that case, definitely do get in touch with us. It's nothing to be worried about, but if these are things that we see quite a lot, we'll be able to give you a bit more advice and guidance on what might be happening with you. So if there's anything that you're also really concerned about and that isn't necessarily in our scope of practice, we're also happy to give you a bit of advice for that. And I know people have been avoiding going to A&E or emergencies at the moment because of what's happening, and they're not wanting to expose themselves or burden the system. But also, if something has happened, then do go. That is also what they're there for. So just to recap, if you've got some new pain to you that's very acute and pinching, if there's numbness and tingling in the arms or legs that you haven't had before, or sharp sort of electric shock symptoms discharging down the arms or legs, do get in touch with us. That's something that we can help to work through with you. Great. All right. So If you are in pain, I'm not sure how many people are experiencing pain at the moment, but generally our patient base does occasionally. One thing that I spend a lot of time talking about with patients is the way that they relate to their pain. So some of this can sound a bit easier said than done, but what I'm really encouraging here is to be not worried about your pain. So if you are concerned, get in touch with us. We'll be able to help you. But if it's something that we have said is okay or that you've had before, just try and take away a little bit of that extra tension, a little bit of that extra anxiety about that area. So what I see a lot is that people who are in pain will try to avoid moving that particular area that's in pain. Even without having actually done anything painful, they will hold on to that area a little bit tighter. They will avoid moving it even in a movement that might have actually otherwise been okay. So as much as you can, allow your body to relax. When you're moving, try not to anticipate the pain. Try not to, before it's even happened, tense up to protect yourself from that. It's really normal and everyone does it. And I see this all the time. But when we do that, we're actually just tensing up our body more, kind of overprotecting it more for an area that's already tense and in pain. So as much as you can, try and relax the area. Try and remember that it's okay and that, some lower back pain can be really awful, definitely, but you should still be able to do some movements. So going for a walk, maybe that's painful after a while, trying to do a few shorter walks and, relaxing into that movement and being comfortable with, maybe walking 3 times for 5 minutes or 10 minutes every day. Try and make the movements that you do feel safe, feel okay, and feel comfortable. If it's really quite painful, then maybe doing some exercises lying on your bed, on your back. Maybe that would be a little bit easier to make it feel more safe. So most pains, you will be able to still do some kind of movement without hurting that area and using the rest of your body. So if you're trying some of the online classes, for example, then they won't know that you have a sore shoulder, but you will, and you will know that in this position, that feels uncomfortable. I'm just going to modify it and not put pressure on that arm, or I'm going to skip this position, or I'm going to pick a video that is aimed at shoulder pain or whatever it is. So it's easy to worry, to think, oh God, I'm in pain. I'm just going to not move it for a while and then it'll get better. But really what I'm encouraging is keep moving as much as you can, move in ways that feel safe and that you're comfortable with. And you can give your body that signal as well of like, it's okay to relax. It's okay to let go of some of the tension in that area. Good. So in terms of specific things that you can do, I talk a lot with patients about doing a bit of self-massage and using a spiky ball. Patients are often a little bit nervous about doing self-massage because they worry that they'll hurt themselves, but really it'd be quite hard to hurt yourself actually. You'd have to be going really too hard for too long in a way that feels uncomfortable, and you would know about it before it's too much. So I really encourage you to get to know the areas that feel uncomfortable. If you have tight shoulders, just kind of get to know where is the tight spot, how can I massage that out? People often can do this quite instinctively. I really encourage you to just get to know your body. How does it feel? Where are the bits that hurt? When I massage them, does that feel better? You can do self-massage in most areas of the body, using cream or not. Some areas that are difficult to reach are between the shoulder blades, in which case I recommend these. This one's my favorite one. We sell these at the clinic as well, but you can get them online if you don't have one already. A tennis ball will also do. It doesn't have to be a specific spiky ball. But rolling against the wall on one of these to get in between the shoulder blades can be really good. Rolling around on the floor as well to get into the buttocks is really helpful for lower back pain, and that can be a bit more difficult to massage in the same way as well. So don't hesitate to use these if you've got these. You can use them, again, in most places in the body. It should feel really quite nice. If you have foot pain, I recommend this one, a little golf ball. You can use a spiky ball as well, or a tennis ball, but this one is the best one I find, especially for things like plantar fasciitis. It is smaller and harder, and you can really get under the foot with it. So doing that regularly can be helpful as well. There's also this little thing that I have, which is called a physio friend. And it's kind of the same idea, but it doesn't move around, and you just sort of, it's kind of like going against the corner of a wall. You will get into those pesky tight bits. But with these things, with self-massage, don't be worried about hurting yourself. You will know if it's been a bit too much. My dad actually is a very good patient. He does everything that I tell him right to the T. A few years ago, I was treating him for some tennis elbow, and I told him to do a bit of self-massage, and he was very diligent with it and listened more to me than to himself. So he went really hard, massaging right through the forearm for a really long time. So hard and so long that he then couldn't move his arm for a few days. So listen to your body. I think I'm reiterating that a few times, but you will know if it's too much. Just do what feels comfortable and what feels good. Other things that I recommend for patients quite often are supplements. So if you are taking medication, especially multiple medications, you might need to check up on any interactions with those specifically, but ones that I recommend the most are magnesium and turmeric. So magnesium is really good for releasing muscle tension generally, and also for reducing sort of general tension and stress, and for helping with sleeping. So you can take it as a supplement, as a tablet, a powder, or you can also take regular hot baths with Epsom salts, which have magnesium in them as well. It is very relaxing and a relaxant. So if you take a bit too much of it, for example, it can be a laxative. So just take what it says on the bottle. I take it myself quite regularly before bed so that you get the sleep benefits and also general muscle benefits as well. The other one, turmeric, is something that has had quite a lot of research in the last few years. It's become really popular as an anti-inflammatory. You should actually be able to take it like you would an anti-inflammatory medication, and expect some reduction in pain within 20 minutes or so. I really recommend getting a good quality one though for this one in particular, which might be a little bit more expensive, but a good quality turmeric supplement should have a high level of the active ingredient curcumin. So finding something with more curcumin will be more therapeutic than a basic cheap one, which is more likely to be just the powder that you use for cooking, which is okay. It's just not going to have as much of a therapeutic effect. I think there's something else I want to say about that in particular. Turmeric is good to take with food. Some people find it can be a bit refluxy. No, it's gone. Bath salts, we've talked about taking some Epsom salts in a bath. Arnica and comfrey are creams that I recommend quite often as well. I use them in my treatment creams, and arnica is quite readily found. Oh yeah, that's what I want to say, that you can find all of these things in health food stores. Holland & Barrett is still open, or online, or pharmacies sometimes have these as well. So arnica is really good for more acute injuries, for bumps and bruises, swelling, something that's happened more acutely. And comfrey is good for a bit more chronic, a bit more arthritic conditions. something that's been around a bit more, a bit longer. It used to be called knit bone, so it's traditionally been used for bone healing. Obviously, that's not the first thing to do if you break a bone, but it can be helpful as part of the healing process to put on. So that's comfrey. A little bit harder to find than arnica, not quite as well known. Heat and ice is a really big one to talk about. People often are not quite sure which one to go for. They're worried that they might be doing the wrong thing if they're putting one versus the other. I'm quite lenient with heat and ice. I think that in the end, it's really what feels better for you. They both have pros and cons for different things, and in my opinion, neither of them is going to be only detrimental. There's a lot of research, a lot of debate in both directions, and I recently saw some research saying that putting heat on an acute injury was actually also helpful for getting the blood flow and kickstarting the healing process, even though we always automatically think of putting ice on acute injuries. So I usually say to people to try both, 20 minutes on, 20 minutes or an hour off, and you can alternate them as well. Heat is really good for releasing muscle tension, for getting more blood flow, more of those healing factors into the area, but will potentially increase some of that swelling and inflammation. Whereas ice is really good for that numbing effect, for pain relief, for reducing some of that swelling and inflammation, but will also stiffen up a bit the muscles and reduce some of the blood flow to the area. So both of them have pros and cons. Try both, see which one you like better and stick to that one. Also, it's good to try it cumulatively. If you try it once and it doesn't do too much, try it regularly. These can have cumulative effects as well. Great. I think that's all that I wanted to talk about pain-wise. So next topic I want to touch on is mindfulness. Mindfulness / meditation / being present in some way. So I wanted to open it up again to you guys through the comments to see if many people have been meditating or have an existing mindfulness practice or one that they've started during this time. One person, Jeff, has already said that they do have a daily meditation. Is anyone else interested in this or doing something like this already? Great. So it looks like some people are already doing something or would like to include it daily. Gardening is definitely a big one, and one that I should have mentioned as well in the exercise section, that it doesn't have to be formal exercise and that gardening does count. Just do change position regularly. Don't get stuck in the bent over for hours position. Great. Excellent. Great. So for those who haven't been interested yet or aren't quite sure what it's all about, the idea of mindfulness or being present is it's a way to train the brain to return to and stay in the present moment. So when we're more often in the present moment, we're more resilient to stress. We also think more clearly, we're more effective at work. We're able to be there more presently with our loved ones. It tones down the fight-flight reflex that we often live in the I'll try and not get too scientific about it. So we're toning down the fight-flight and we're increasing the rest and digest side of the nervous system and accessing more of our front brain, which has more of our decision-making capacities. So especially at a time like now, a lot of people are in worry, a lot of people are anxious about the future, we're not really sure what's going on. it might be the perfect time to start some kind of mindfulness presence practice. And so it can be done just 5 minutes a day, or you can build on something a little bit longer. But again, like exercise, this is something that we want to do a little bit of each day, and that will have a greater cumulative effect. So it is a form of brain training. We are training our brain to be more comfortable staying in the present moment. So just like training a muscle during exercise, it takes repetition and it takes time. One session alone might make you feel nice and relaxed afterwards, but it's really in the repetition that we will have more ongoing effects. So I'm going to talk about a few different options to try out mindfulness, but before we do, I wanted to do the 3 mindful breaths together. So the 3 mindful breaths are a way to connect back into your body. Just notice yourself, and you can do this at any time, in any place, just to kind of recenter, reground. I did my 3 breaths just before I started this webinar, and especially when you're transitioning into the next thing, or you're feeling that you're just a little bit frazzled with what's going on, having these 3 breaths can be really grounding. So we'll try these together. So you can do it with your eyes open, your eyes closed. So you're going to take a deep breath in and all the way out. And in again. And out. And one more, breathing in. And all the way out. Good. So notice how you feel even after just having breathed 3 times, how it can just bring a little bit more relaxation into a moment that can otherwise be a little bit stressful. So if you'd like a little bit of guidance, if you'd like to do some guided meditations or have a bit more of a structured approach to get into mindfulness, there are some apps that I really recommend. I'm going to also put those in the notes for the webinar. So the apps are Calm, Headspace, Smiling Mind, Insight Timer, it's a popular one, and one that I found recently, which I thought has a really great tagline, is called 10% Happier, and they are aimed at meditation for fidgety skeptics. So if that sounds like you, there's an app for you out there. If you're a fidgety skeptic, then you might still be able to get into this. At the moment, we're quite worried, we're quite stressed. It might be an idea to limit a little bit the news intake that we're having, reducing a little bit of that stress and negative input that we're receiving a lot. We want to stay connected, but not overdoing it as well. And like with the exercise, we're saying it doesn't have to be a formal thing. So there are apps available where you can get into it through a guided way. You can do your 3 breaths regularly, but going for a walk by yourself, looking around you, noticing the flowers in your neighbor's garden, noticing the trees, that's a mindfulness practice too. That's a way of being present, of just noticing how you're feeling. Sitting and looking out with a cup of tea, just looking at the sky, noticing the birds go past and the clouds, that as well can be a mindfulness practice. So it doesn't have to be complicated, just something that allows you to be with yourself for a moment. All right. So 2 last topics that I want to touch on sort of more briefly are sleep and routine building. So I'm not quite sure how much people are struggling with sleep at the moment. Potentially some people more than usual, maybe others less than usual. I'm definitely sleeping really well at the moment. But if sleep is something that you're struggling with at the moment, the main things that I would recommend are having a really good wind down routine before bed. So for the 1 to 2 hours before you actually go to bed for sleep, try to make, so some people are not sleeping very well. Really try to make the environment around you feel more relaxing. So during the day, we have quite high levels of cortisol, which keeps us active, sort of our daytime stress hormone. And then for sleeping and for nighttime, we have an increase in melatonin, which is the sleeping relaxation hormone. So what we want to have in the evening is a gradual decrease of our cortisol and a gradual increase of the melatonin. So if you've been quite stressed right up until bedtime, if you've been looking at screens, right up until bed, TV, laptop, computer, phone, whatever, you're really still in that kind of wake cycle. You might have some filters on your phone which can make the screens more warm. That can make it a little bit better, but what I'm encouraging really is to just not have screens at all in the last hour or two before bed. Having lower lights in the environment, so turning off the bright down lights above you and having more of a warm ambient lighting with lower lighting. At home, we often quite like to have some candles around. We often have an oil burner with some lavender oil, which is quite relaxing. So it doesn't have to be anything like that, but you want the environment that you're going to be sleeping in to feel like a relaxing sleep environment for at least an hour or two before you actually sleep. Otherwise, you're having to start that process from when you get to bed, and there's quite a long lag time. Another thing as well to mention, some people might struggle a little bit with this if they're in a shared house, or if there isn't much space at the moment, but ideally really making the bedroom the sleep sanctuary that's relaxing, and the rest of the house is where you do your work and your kind of everyday things, so that you don't have kind of stressful associations with going to bed, because that's where you've been sitting all day stressing about your work or assignment or whatever it is. So as much as possible, really having that as your space, which feels relaxing and which has sleep connotations, rather than the office or the dining room or wherever it is that you're currently working. Herbal teas can be really helpful before bed. So ones that I would recommend are chamomile, which is really easily can be easily found, or passion flower, lemon balm. Valerian is a little bit stronger. It can be found in supplement form as well. So they're all sort of different natural herbs which can help for that sleep time phase. You can get different sleep blends as well, quite easily. Finally, talking a little bit about routine. So everything that we've covered already today, ideally we want to be doing it regularly, even in small chunks. So if it's something that you're not already doing, but you'd like to put it into your day, start as easy as you can. Start with like the most basic pared back option, and slot that in somewhere where you already have an existing habit. So the easiest way to add in a new habit is to piggyback it onto something that already exists. So it's likely that you're not going to forget to brush your teeth every day. If you put on the kettle for a cup of tea every morning, that's also a time point that happens every day. You sit down for your lunch, you get up to do the dishes. There's a number of points in our day which happen in the same way. And they're really good points to put in a new habit, because we can then link that as a memory to the next thing. If we're purely relying on our memory and willpower to put it in randomly each day, we're not going to be able to hold on to it very long. So really make it as easy as you can for yourself, as short and unchallenging as possible, so that you can't make it into more of an obstacle, and then piggyback it onto something that already exists, so that you can make it a natural part and a natural flow in the day. Above all, in all of this, we've talked about a lot of different things, a lot of different options for people. If none of this is available to you, that's okay. Treat yourself gently during this time. This is obviously quite different and tricky and challenging and awful for some people. So be gentle on yourself. If you're able to implement one thing from today, amazing, that's great. If nothing, sure, you spent an hour looking at me, that's fine. Or if there are a number of things, then, excellent, that's really great. So take from it what you like, what you want. If it's all a bit too much, that's okay. Just be gentle on yourself and take things one step at a time. So we're going to open up the Q&A to finish off. And I'd just like to say before we finish, again, if you're not sure about anything, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me directly. I'll put my email address, and we'll also have the Soma contact details on the video available. We are doing telehealth sessions, so that's a video appointment where we can talk about what's going on with you. We can do a little bit of assessment, some diagnosis, and give you lots of advice as well. So don't hesitate to get in touch if you'd like one of those. Let us know what you thought of today. If you'd like another session like this, for kids and babies, or for any other topic that you're interested in. And yeah, I hope it was helpful. So go ahead with the Q&A. I'm happy to address questions that people have. Okay, so what's the best exercise to do in a very limited space? I used to have a really small bedroom a few flats ago, and I literally had space to unroll my yoga mat and pretty much not go off the bounds of it. I couldn't really extend super far, but was still able to do what I wanted to do. So it depends on, I guess, what kind of space and the dimensions of it, but if you can unroll a yoga mat in it, you should still be able to do quite a lot on the yoga Pilates spectrum. And dancing on the spot, you can still jump up and down a lot, or maybe focus a little bit more on the outdoors side of things, so the walking, and maybe thinking about the Cash to 5K and the jogging. So what do I think about this time for detoxing and fasting? This is going to be really individual for everyone. So if that's something that you're thinking about and you're interested in, it might be something that you'd like to have a little bit of advice on. I'm sure that I know that there are a lot of sessions still available online with nutritionists and naturopaths. But if that's something that's interesting for you, go for it. It's definitely a good time to be exploring different things like that and changing diet. And especially if you're wanting to get into, a new exercise routine, and mindfulness and diet is a really great extension, which we haven't talked about today, but definitely something that's really important in our lifestyle as well. So kids and babies webinar would be great. Good. I will pass that on to David. Great. I'm glad to hear it's been helpful. That's hopefully the idea. Any other questions, do send them through. We'll be here for a little bit longer still. Great. Thanks. Good to hear. Good to hear that posture has already improved. That's great. If that's one thing I can help with, definitely posture. Can exercise in the evening help you sleep better? Good question. And what I would say on that is that it depends on the type of exercise and how soon before bedtime you do it. So I wouldn't, for example, do a HIIT class before bed because you're then really activating, that very present awake state. So what I would recommend before bedtime is more gentle movements, more gentle sessions of exercise, walking, sure, as well. Jogging, if it's a kind of slow, gentle one. Overall, I would say yes, it can help if it's helping you. It can help if it's something that helps with the wind down side of things, but not so much if it's a really active, sweaty type of exercise. It will make you feel physically tired, but it won't necessarily have the same wind down effect as a more gentle form of exercise. Tai Chi is actually another one that I was wanting to mention, which which is very accessible to all types of ability and people who are in pain as well, but which has a really good relaxing effect in it too. All right, looks like that's the end of the questions for today. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been really great to be here with you. I hope you've all found it helpful. Get in touch if you would like anything, and hopefully we'll see you soon. All right, bye.